Deep inside a cave in southern France, there's a ledge 4 meters off the ground, 12 meters long, a meter and a half wide, 330 meters from the entrance. To reach it, you don't walk. You crawl. Through narrow black tunnels, past drops and loose rock, carrying nothing but a burning torch that lights maybe 3 meters ahead of you. No sunlight has touched this place in over 10,000 years. The silence is total, except for your own breathing and the sound of your own heartbeat in your ears. And when Ice Age humans finally reached this ledge, they stopped and they painted horses. Not just one or two, nearly 50 animals engraved and painted into the rock in a space so narrow only one person could ever fit there at a time. Why would anyone go this far? Why take on this much risk, this much effort, just to create something that almost no one would ever see? This isn't the only place like it. Across Europe, in Lascaux, in Chauvet, in the caves of northern Spain, some of the most detailed, most skillfully made paintings in human history aren't near the entrance where the light is. They're buried deep, hours away from daylight, in total, suffocating darkness. If this was just decoration, it makes no sense. You don't hide your best work where nobody will ever casually walk past it. So archaeologists have spent decades asking the same question we're asking right now. What were they really doing down there? The first theory is that these caves weren't spaces for looking. They were spaces for feeling. Total darkness does something to the human mind. Strip away all light, all sound, all sense of time, and the brain begins to behave differently. Some researchers believe these deep chambers were used to induce altered states of consciousness, a kind of sensory deprivation that could trigger visions. Under this theory, the paintings aren't just pictures of animals ancient humans had seen. They're records of animals they saw in their minds, in trance, guided by figures who functioned something like early shamans. In other words, they may not have been decorating the dark. They may have been painting what the dark showed them. The second theory is even stranger, and it has to do with sound. A researcher named Igor Reznikov spent years studying something almost nobody had thought to check: the acoustics of these caves. And he found something unsettling. The places inside these caves where sound echoes the longest, where a single voice reverberates and lingers, are often the exact same places where the paintings are the most dense. In some caves, if you make a sound and simply walk toward the direction where the echo answers you the strongest, you will walk directly into a gallery of paintings. In total darkness, where a torch only shows you a few feet ahead, sound may have worked as a kind of sonar, a way of finding your path and finding the sacred places, using nothing but your own voice. And it gets even stranger. Certain sounds, deep growls, low bison calls, the bellow of a stag, would resonate and roll through entire chambers of these caves. Some researchers connect this directly to shamanic ritual, where imitating the sound of an animal, becoming that sound, was a way of reaching a deeper state of consciousness, a way of temporarily becoming the thing you were about to paint. So maybe these weren't just painters. Maybe they were listening their way through the dark, using the cave itself as an instrument, and marking the places where the rock seemed to answer back. There's a third theory, and it's simpler, but just as chilling. Maybe the difficulty was the entire point. Some spaces inside these caves are so narrow that only one single person could ever have entered them. Not a group, not a ceremony with an audience. One person alone, in the absolute dark, at the end of a crawl that could take hours. Compare that to other chambers in the very same caves, wide open spaces that could easily hold a crowd. It's possible these caves weren't one single sacred space, but many. A public space near the entrance for the whole group, and a private space deep inside, reserved for something no one else would ever witness. An initiation, a personal ordeal, a rite of passage that had to be earned by the journey alone. If that's true, then the distance itself wasn't an obstacle standing in the way of the ritual. The distance was the ritual. Here's the part that should unsettle you the most. After all this research, after decades of archaeologists, acousticians, and psychologists studying these caves, there is still no agreed-upon answer, no consensus. Some scientists now believe the darkness itself may have shaped what these ancient painters saw on the walls in the first place. Not that they hid their art in the dark, but that the dark is what created it. Thousands of years later, we still do the exact same thing they did. We crawl into these same tunnels with our own lights, our own cameras, asking the exact same question the original painters never left an answer to. Why here? Why hidden? Why in the dark? Maybe that's the point. Maybe some things were never meant to be found easily.